Hi everybody, Bearded Rogue here with yet another BGGCon video. This video is going to be about memorable games or games that I played that I specifically wanted to call out. I'm not going to get a chance to talk about every game that I played. I think that video would probably stretch into next Tuesday, so instead we're just going to kind of go through each day and I'm going to highlight some of the big major points. So I actually got there on Tuesday night and was able to get in some gaming before retiring for the evening. And the biggest game that night, other than the prototype that I played, which I'll talk about in a different video, was that Bill Corey actually sat me down to teach me Pinochle. He had mentioned it on Twitter that he was looking to play some Pinochle and was wanting to see if there were any other gamers who were getting in early that would be willing to learn, and myself and Wizard Matt, and Kimberly Bullock all volunteered, and so we sat down and we learned Pinochle, and it was really, really good. My family grew up, my family played Pinochle as when I was growing up, and my grandma and grandpa were really big into it. They had 8 kids, 4 boys and 4 girls, and we always joked it was so that they had 4 teams that they could play Pinochle against. And they would literally sit down on a holiday get-together, and they would play all of the teams, oldest boy, oldest girl, second oldest boy, second oldest girl, and try to run through the whole gauntlet of them, beating them over the course of the evening before the night would end and everybody would go to bed. Anybody who won got to sit at the table and continue trying to run through the rest of the teams. It was usually my grandparents at the end of the night, but anytime it wasn't, it was a cause for celebration for whichever team of kids had managed to dethrone their parents. So, you know, that was something that was always there, but I had never learned. My parents got divorced by the time I was 11, and nobody had ever taught me how to play, so it was cool to learn. It was a very enjoyable experience, and I like trick-taking games in general, and it's a trick-taking game with a little bit of weirdness as far as the melds go, but I really enjoyed it. Let's see, I also got to play, I'm just going to call this one out very briefly, I got to play Werfel Bonanza for the first time. Stephanie Straw will now consider me to be amongst the elitist of gamers, since that game is required gaming for anyone and everyone. I actually got to play it, and I actually won, mostly because Fiona and MaggieBot rolled all of the stuff I needed to complete my stuff on their turns. It was really great of them to help me like that, but I actually played Werfel Bonanza. So the next day was the long wait in line, and in the line we managed to play Avignon, both Pilgrimage and that's the new one, the new expansion, the standalone expansion Pilgrimage, and then the original Avignon as well. We also played one of my prototypes, but we'll talk about that later. I really love Avignon. It's probably, I don't know if it's my favorite 2-player game of all time, but it's definitely the one I've played the most, not counting Netrunner. So it's really portable, it's really easy to play, it fits in any bag anywhere, so I knew I was going to be bringing it to the convention. Not just because I had been sent a copy of the expansion, but also because I could show off my super awesome playmat that I got from the original Kickstarter. I also got to play both Avignon and Pilgrimage a little bit later with some other people, so I ended up playing it multiple times on just the first day. I love Avignon. I don't know that I like Pilgrimage quite as much. It's a little bit more brain-burny. The positions on the board matter more, and it kind of leads to some less intuitive combos, or some issues wherein you can just, the only moves you can really take are undoing the other player's moves, which is awkward. I didn't run into that so much with the original Avignon. Occasionally, you'll have that situation where you really want to undo the other person's move, which isn't allowed, but in Pilgrimage, it really seemed like there were a lot of situations where undoing the other person's move was the only option to not just give them points. Some of the cards in it are really neat. I expect a bigger review on it later on. Suffice it to say, I like it, but I don't know that I like it as much as the original. I may use some of the cards and mix them in with the cards from the original to shake things up a bit, but I don't know how much I'm going to play it by itself. Let's see. Gonna continue skipping over prototypes for now. Into the Echo side. Okay, so the Insane Clown Posse deck building game is much better than it has any right to be. I played it twice on 2 different days at the convention. It is similar to Ascension, but not identical to Ascension. In many ways, it's a lot less fiddly than Ascension. I play a lot of Ascension on my phone. I haven't played my physical copy of Ascension in so long that I actually ended up trading it away because I just play it on my phone if I'm going to play it. All of the little crystals and victory points and other things like that really didn't work for me in the physical world, and the app tracks all of that stuff with no problems and speeds gameplay up, and it's so much easier to play as an app. Into the Echo side fixes a lot of the problems that I had with Ascension, believe it or not. The designer, Jump Steady, is not only a rapper on Insane Clown Posse's record label, but he is also the first ever champion in Juggalo Championship Wrestling. So the man's business card reads rapper, wrestler, game designer, which is about as awesome as it could possibly be. But it's a pretty good game. I mean, if you are at all into Insane Clown Posse, or at least don't have issues with them, I recommend giving it a try. It's one of the better deck builders I've played. It is a blender of kind of all of the greatest hits of Ascension without a lot of the filler. All of the artwork, for the most part, is original. I think there are like there's 7 pieces of artwork that are repeated in the game, and that's basically it. There's 2 per faction, and then there's 1 piece of artwork for the Juggalo cards, which are basically the Mystics. But it has some neat stuff in it. The Fiend cards are like attack cards in other deck building games. However, instead of repeating over and over again when you play them, like a construct in Ascension, they do go into your discard pile, but they come out and you play them to the table, and then you can trigger them on any turn, not just the turn that you play them. They never go back into your discard pile, unless something gets rid of them. But they have some really brutal effects because of that. They'll, get rid of other people's items, they'll flip over some of the cards in the center row so that nobody can buy them, and then they'll refresh at the beginning of your next turn. They do all sorts of things that would be too brutal as repeat effects, but are really good as one-shot effects, and it allows you to kind of time your attacks better. And there are defense cards in the game that have the Stomp ability. For example, Guar is one of the cards, and they have the Stomp ability, which lets you ignore attack cards like that. They're not like the be-all end-all, but they're good, and it's really cool that they work the way they do. They're not just every cycle through the person's deck you're getting hit with the same attack card over and over again. They have a lot of the same types of things. Items are like constructs. They go into your discard pile, they come out, you play them. They have an effect that's either triggered or passive that stays in play unless somebody gets rid of them. The other thing that's really cool is they have a synergy bonus on your turn. There are 3 non-fiend factions, for lack of a better term. The Underworld, the Dark Carnival, and the Psychopathic factions. Think of them as red, green, and yellow. And if you play 3 of those cards on a turn, you can trigger their faction bonus. You only get 1 a turn, but the red faction lets you draw a card, the green faction gives you 2 more karma, which is the currency of the game, and the yellow faction lets you draw flavor cards, which are little like one-shot effects, almost like soul gems from Ascension. But it's It's just a really good game. It's way better than it has any right to be. It's a solid game, and it's skinned like Insane Clown Posse. So if you like deck builders, I'd give it a try. If you like Insane Clown Posse, I'd definitely give it a try. And if you're just curious, I don't think you'll have a bad time playing it. It's pretty cool. Let's see. I already talked about Shot and Totten and Hand of the King in one of my other videos. Same with Terraforming Mars. Crokinole. I played Crokinole for the first time. I suck at Crokinole. Let's just kind of leave it at that. I played with the board game Pinup Girl and Bebo, GameWire Warrior, and then Pep from Watch It Played. And my team won, but it was exclusively because Pep is awesome, and I contributed absolutely zero to the cause. I literally just shot discs that did nothing but come off the board, and yeah, it was fun like that. Either way, it was cool to get to play a game with them. I didn't get to see them very much at the convention, but it was great to be able to actually play games with them and hang out. That was lots of fun. Let's see, so day 2, I already talked about Grand Austria Hotel. We're not going to get too heavily into prototypes yet. Fuji Flush. Fuji Flush is I've said it before, it's my no thanks killer. Fuji Flush is going to be with me everywhere I can possibly go. Once I get a quiver, it'll be in my quiver. It's a game that I will bring with me everywhere. It's better Uno. It's really fun. I highly recommend it to everybody. It's a game you can literally teach anyone, like anyone. Much like No Thanks, like people who aren't gamers at all will be able to play this game without any difficulty. And they'll have fun. I pretty much guarantee it. The other thing I played was Broom Service, the card game. I'd never played Broom Service or Broom Service, the card game before, and I really enjoyed it. The whole brave actions, cowardly actions thing was a really neat idea. A little bit of pressure luck element, but also rewards, things like thinking about what people are in particular are going after, and strategizing and tactically analyzing the situation of what people have and what people don't have. If the cowardly and brave action card play is the best part of Broom Service, the board game, Broom Service, the card game, is that game, and it's really good. I really enjoyed it. I almost picked it up sight unseen, but did get a chance to play it. I didn't pick it up. I probably should have, but we'll see. There's a lot of good stuff coming out, as always. And then let's see, Saturday, which wasn't the last day, but I did not play any games Sunday. Sunday was just trying to make sure everything fit into my luggage and saying goodbye to everyone and getting to the airport. So Saturday I played Rodney Dangerfield's No Respect game, which for whatever reason is constantly upvoted on Board Game Geek as a joke. It's a game, I guess. We played it twice. It was not extremely impressive as a game. It just kind of is a thing. It was cool to be able to actually play it because I can say that I played it, but beyond that, not much more to say about that. We played a lot of Fabled Fruit. Fabled Fruit is really good. Fabled Fruit is a family-level game. Kids could guaranteedly play this game. And it has a little bit of a legacy element to it, in that it has a set deck of cards that you do not shuffle, and you only use a certain number of them every game. And as things are... all of them are basically worker placement spaces, and as you purchase them, they leave and become victory points, and they leave permanently from the game and are replaced by new ones from the top of the deck. So the game kind of evolves over time. It doesn't really have a story, but as we were playing, we noticed that there were like narrative peaks and valleys of like, first you're just kind of playing this game, and then you have a card that introduces a market, and then that market, so you start seeing cards that interact with that market in various ways, and then you stop seeing market cards and you start seeing cards that have to do with the number of cards people have in hand and attack kind of the people who have a lot of cards in hand. and it just kind of evolves over time. I think we played 5 games of it or something like that, maybe even more than that. But we played a whole bunch of games back to back to back to back, and it was really good. It even on the rule book, because all the cards are numbered, you can actually list on the back of the rule book what cards you were using, so you can go back to a previous point in time and still be able to then pick it back up with people you were playing it with. So unlike a lot of legacy games, it's one that you can share or you can play with multiple groups without having to reset everything or without your existing knowledge of the game ruining the game for people, because it's not a narrative story. You'll know what mechanics are coming up, but everybody else, the mechanics are simple enough that that isn't too much of an advantage for any player, I don't think. So I really recommend that one. Had I not played it so late in the convention, I may have picked up a copy, and I probably still will, because I think it's something that would just be a fun game to just sit down and play, like from start to finish. You could do a whole game day of Fuji Flush if you wanted to. Or not Fuji Flush, Fabled Fruit. Man, Friedman Friesen, these double Fs. Fabled Fruit. You could just do a whole day of Fabled Fruit gaming and just play through the whole thing from start to finish, and I think you would have a really good time. Let's see. Continuing to ignore games that are prototypes. That looks like most of it. I will say this is still a prototype, but we played... I got to play the final Kickstarter-ready version of Last Garden from Chris Rollins and Maddie Christensen, 1000 XP Press. It's really good. I've played previous iterations of the game and liked it. This version is the best version. I have played any of the mechanical things that existed in previous versions of the prototypes. They've completely ironed it out. It's ready. Like, it's a game that's ready, and I would back it today if it were on Kickstarter today. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to wait until, like, February, but, fantastic game. Like, I can't say enough about how good this game has become, and watching it evolve over time has been a real treat. So, that one's coming up. Look for it. I highly recommend it. But that's it as far as published stuff goes. There were a couple of other games. I was introduced to a small card game called Gracias, which was really neat. And I played a couple of other things, but that's enough for this video. Next video, I'm probably going to talk about other people's prototypes and things like that, and if I have enough time, I may talk about my own. But we'll see you then. Bye.